According to the Commerce Department, 38.5% of all American households have landline phone service. I guess with the smartphone, this is even lower nowadays. But anyways, in a sample of 18 households, what is the probability that exactly 3 have landline phone service? Set a formula with numbers. Okay, so in this question, you see this percent here? That looks like probability, right? So the probability that any random household will have a landline phone would be p equals to 0.385. And you know what? You're trying to do this on a sample of 18 households. So you have a probability and you're repeating this 18 times for each house, right? P is the probability for each house, and that's repeated 18 times. So we have the binomial distribution, okay? Hopefully by now you can kind of figure out when you have the binomial distribution, when you have the normal distribution, or when you have the central limit theorem, and so on and so on. Okay, just try to figure out which it is, okay? Because if you don't know what it is, then you don't know which formula to use. Okay, so for us, because it's a probability for a binomial distribution, we have to use this formula with it's 3 out of 18, so you have to do 18 choose 3. And of course, this can be computed using NCR function in your calculator, and you would get 3.17. But rather than doing this, the more efficient way to do it in a calculator would be to use second vars and binom PDF. So go to second vars, gives you all the distribution, and then you have the binom PDF, or some people call this binom PMF, and you put trials. Well, we have 18 houses, and each house has 0.385, as you can see right here. So 0.3, oops, let me clear it, 0.385. And then I want the x value to be 3 because I want to know what's the probability that exactly 3 have landline. What's the probability for x being 3? That's the question, right? So we enter, and you get this 3.17, just like how I said here, how I claimed here. And so you get the answer as 3.17%. Now, second question, how many households of 18 would you expect to have landline service? Okay, and to get that, you use this formula that you have to memorize for the binomial distribution. The mean value is NP, whereas the standard deviation for a binomial distribution is square root of NPQ. And because it's only asking for the expectation value, which is the mean value, you just use this formula, and you get n times p. N is 18, p is 0.8385, and you get 6.93. So you would expect about 7 households, because 6.93 is close to 7. You would expect about 7 households to have the landline service. If you actually do this, it's very likely that you're going to get 7 or 6 or 8 if you actually found out about these 18 households. Okay? And then the final question is the probability in part A unusual? Well, usually we say something's unusual if it's less than 5%. So you can just say it's unusual. I prefer to say it is unusual, and because it's less than 5%. And if you just pick exactly a number, often you might not get a high number. So, I mean, it's like asking, why is this cup here on the table? The probability of seeing a table and a cup being there, that specific cup in there, would be a very small probability, right? Yet it does happen, right? Often the right question to ask is like, what's the probability that you would have 3 or less landline phone service. And if you have some inequality, that's like a more appropriate question to ask to see if this number 3 is small or not. And in that case, if you actually did it, if you added up the probabilities for 0, 1, and 2, and 3, actually you can use the cumulative distribution function to add everything. That's what cumulative binom CDF is for. Okay, so if you do that, you get 4.32. That's still less than 5%. So if really 38.5% of American households did have landline phone, and somebody did a survey and only found 3, that would mean that probably the original assumption could be wrong. Okay, with certain confidence you can say that this is wrong. It probably went down because of the new smartphones and stuff like that. Okay, because more and more people are just getting rid of their landline phone.